Congratulations, Lugal, on redeeming first. Happy day to you. I hope that you're feeling well rested today. Hi, Cloven. Hi, Morrow. She got the fit on. I'm working on fixing that right now. I had to create a whole new page for my Wardo setup. Okay. We gotta go live on TikTok as well. Reading 2 days in a row. That if you think you're being spoiled, then I won't take that away from you. You let yourself think that you're being spoiled. I always want to read to you guys. I just try too hard. You've jumped time zones? No wonder you're an hour early. Oh, have you guys not done the time zone change, or do you not do the time zone change? There we go. And let's see. These. I need to import this profile. Okay, cool. That's broken. That's very comforting. Awesome, PogChamp. Just remove all of them, I guess. Turn that off, turn that one on. Yes. Here's the part that I needed. And we're gonna reduce this one by a lot. It just seems to be the head rotation. So maybe I can adjust this and adjust that. There we go. All right. Would that... Oh, you didn't do it at all? It's a silly thing to do with no benefits? Don't forget to drink your water. Hi, Silver Bullet. I'm doing well today. How are you? Let's see. I also need to adjust. That's crazy that you could literally hear the water hitting my stomach. The tongue is fixed? No. It's not. It's still clipping through my bottom teeth. I can't escape it. Hi, Haven. Welcome to all my fishies. Are you ready to read? I do have just a few more modifications to make while I am here. Let's see, where is my accessibility keyboard? We want to make this into this one. We're going to turn that down even more. How's my little gummy bear? Oh, I know you ain't talking about me. You couldn't possibly. Let me see. I wanted to set this. Ooh. Okay. I don't know if that's necessarily the right choice. Probably not, no. Let me remove that. And then this one, I need to limit this to 0.8. There we go. Okay, no more clipping. So you did do your spring forward, just not the same spring forward that we do. Of course, the US has to do everything different. We're good at that. I'm going to set this. Okay. I like that one a lot better. What if I set it even further down? Heart eyes? I don't have any kind of, like a heart icon in my eyes, but maybe someday we can get that added. Hi, Mimi. Are you guys ready to begin reading? Put a 1 in chat if you're ready to listen to some reading. I'm really excited to continue Drown the Stars. Yes. Your bangs look like teardrops and they make a heart. That's something that I think you've pointed out before, Phantom, and I think that that's really cool. I never thought of it like that. Mimi is ready, and Northern Light is ready, and Lemming is ready. I think we can begin some reading. Thank you for the hydrate. You look good. Thank you. I try my best. Your voice is so relaxing. That's why I read. is because people like to listen to my voice. Japanese sai? Welcome. Thank you guys for joining me on Twitch. Regardless of what platform you're on, if perhaps you'd like to check me out on a different platform, we are currently live on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, all at the same time, same stream, no matter what. If you want to support, you can watch on multiple streams. If you'd rather another platform, you can jump on over. Otherwise, I hope that you curl up in your blanket and get cozy and enjoy listening to my narration of Drown the Stars. If you're interested in getting a copy of this book for yourself, the author, Quiana Chase, actually has a sale going on for the book on TikTok Shop if you'd like to get a signed copy. I'll sleep listening to your voice. That's part of the reason why I do this. It makes me happy that I can help people find peace and comfort and relaxation, no matter the way that they do it. So, without further ado, I will read. If I make mistakes, please don't bully me for it. I am doing my best, and I am only human. But I promise I will be trying my best. Sometimes I will need to take some extended breathers, or I will need to repeat the same sentence a couple of times. I hope that this does not break the immersion for you, but again, I am only human and I'm trying my best. No fish? Are the fish not working? Oh no! Let me pull this up. It should be working. Okay. Spawn point. Yes. Yes, the fish has been chosen. Settings. Twitch is logged in. YouTube is logged in. And there's no fishies? Why is there no fishies? I'm sorry. I had to recreate the instance of Wardo so that my model would actually work properly. That's upsetting. I'm sorry. Why do you repeat some of the sentences when reading? Chances are, if I'm repeating something, it's because I didn't like the way that I phrased that. I didn't like the tone that I used, or that maybe I tapped something, or I was moving something while I said that sentence and I need to redo the sentence. Or I have ADHD. I don't think I have dyslexia, but sometimes my brain does get ahead of my words. And I've been teased about this in the past and it really upsets me. But sometimes my brain is just going so fast that I put the wrong syllable on a word, or I will add letters to a word completely by accident. I really don't mean to do that, but it just happens. So sometimes those are the mistakes that I make. Let me see, maybe it's a camera issue. No, render props is on. I'm sorry guys, I don't know why the fishies aren't happening. They're supposed to happen. Hi Pro Self-Love, hi Unzipped. I do it so I can comprehend. Yeah. It's frustrating. Here, I'm going to try something. I'm going to close out of Wordo, and I'm going to open it up again. And maybe that'll work. So the screen is just going to be black for a minute while I reopen everything, okay? Did you get my compliment? You literally just sent it, and you didn't give me a second to read it because I have 4 different chats to look at and you don't have any patience. Please give me a moment to solve my troubleshooting before I can check chat again. I appreciate your patience. Having trouble with the fishies? Yes, I want all of my fishies to show up on the screen. But for some reason, it's not working. I want everyone to feel involved and included, but it's hard to do that if yes, you do see me now. Does anybody on Twitch or YouTube want to send a message and see if maybe it works? Will we have a fishy? I want my fishies. Fishy time, fishy time. No, Warado is most up to date. Thank you, Lemming and Zip, thank you. It unfortunately doesn't look like the fishies are working. That's such a bummer. What do I do? Let me zoom out. 'Cause maybe, oh, there are the fishies. They're just in the totally wrong place. What are you guys doing over there? Okay. Let's see. Well, I don't think you guys are supposed to be over there. Maybe I should probably just count this as a loss and we just won't be able to have fishies. Which I know totally kills the vibe, but oh my gosh, there's so many fishies now. Maybe this is supposed to be a negative? No, that's not what I wanted to open. No, that's not what I wanted to open. Jeebus. Okay, let me do that. Alright, Twitch chat, try it again. Go ahead and spam to your heart's content. And if it doesn't work, we're just going to have to move on. Okay. Whoop. Whoop. Well, you're out of frame, but it's a step in the right direction. Something is better than nothing. Yay, we have our fishies back. They're still a little, funky, but they are back. Okay, reduce that by a little bit, and then increase that by a little bit, and then do that by a little bit. Yes, we have our fishies now. If you are watching on Kick or TikTok and you want a fishy, you have to join us on Twitch or YouTube in order to get a fishy. This program is... something is going on. Like, my mouse is moving weird. This is so strange. Oh, you're okay, Meat Peach. I appreciate it. I just have a lot of people demanding my attention all at once, and it's really overwhelming for me. And I know you guys are waiting, and I normally don't have this big of a technical issue. You are perfectly okay. You just had to give me a minute. A few minutes. And I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Let me see what you said. Thank you. You're very sweet. And thank you, Rose Star, for the gift. A heart. Here, a finger heart. Because it's the best that I'm going to be able to do. Okay. Well, now that we have our fishies, if anybody wants a fishy, you can join in Twitch or on YouTube. And if you send a message in chat, you will be able to have a fish. And it will have your name on it. And it would greatly help me if, as we are reading, whenever new viewers join us and ask, what is she reading? We are reading a book called Drown the Stars. Jap, thank you. Thank you so much for the subscribe. Thank you. Drown the Stars, yes. It is a really cool science fiction fantasy about a ocean fish type of species of alien, and they operate under a monarchy in which our main character is a engineer who committed war crimes, was knighted for this, and has chosen to be the tutor of the prince. And nothing goes as planned. Put a 1 in chat if you're ready to begin reading. Let me see if this toggle works. Well, it almost did. My mouse is acting weird. There we go. And the fishies are not where they're supposed to be. Cool. Nothing is working correctly. But hey, that's part of the process, is we just have to navigate our mistakes. We'll change this to 0.6. Come on, scroll. Oh dear heavens. What is my graphics card at? Like, what is struggling so poorly? My RAM is at 61%. You're fine. You're fine. I mean, to be fair, I should probably close out of some of those tabs. You're not wrong. What else is wrong? Okay, Wardo. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Close out of Discord? I mean, I guess I could. Close out of that. Close out of that. Okay, yeah. 55% RAM. Okay. Is that the problem? Is my RAM suffering? I love underwater stuff. Me too. The description got me interested. So I've already read the whole book. I verify all of the books that I read on stream. I love it. I love this book. It's really good. And if you're interested in getting a author signed copy of the book, Quiana Chase is the author. You can !book in order to get the title and the author. If you're on Twitch or YouTube, sorry, the API doesn't really work for TikTok. If you !buy book, all one word, buy book, you'll get the link to the TikTok shop where you can get $10 off of a signed copy. I wanted to include those links. I am not in any way getting paid to do that or to say that. I just really think that this is a good book and I am enjoying reading it. And I think you guys deserve to have the opportunity to get the book yourself. Okay. The fishies, for some reason, are still kind of out of the corner. Why are my hands not working? Where'd my hands go? Hands? There they are. The fishies, I don't know why they're over there, but that's fine. There's an application that may have a memory leak. Probably, maybe, who knows? Well, the task that is being intense, I've already closed Task Manager, but the tasks, to be fair, I am live streaming to 4 different platforms, and some of them are sending dual live streams. So I'm technically running 6 different broadcasts at once. At the same time, I am a 3D model with live Twitch integration, having the fishies in the background, and Wardo, to make all of this work. So, flashbang? What? Do you guys want me to... Did some software get updated? You use everything that had an update already updated. The Wardo, the thing to put all this together, this had an update last night after stream was over. So, voila. If you guys would like, I can keep it dark. I'm gonna read now. Chapter 4. 3 days and 1 day post... I already messed that up. Chapter 4. 3 weeks and 1 day post Wokma. 7 years before assassination. Vane resigned herself to the fact that she'd be doing this on her own. She'd just built a smaller replica of a Nova-tier shield and throw explosions at it until something finally made its way through. Did she know how to make a Nova-tier shield? Oh my god, we're already off to a rough start. Thank you guys for the hype train. I didn't know we had a hype train. Don't forget to drink your water, because I know you haven't. Did she know how to make a Nova-tier shield? No, but she would learn how before the day was out. Luckily, she did know something about flare-tier shields. She'd repaired dozens, if not hundreds, of the handheld shields during her time as a private. Every step she took rattled the data cubes in her pockets and the box of tools in her arms. The data center had happily handed over the blueprints to the planet's backup Nova shields, and Vane had taken the schematics of a few flare and stellar tier shields just for good measure. She'd acquired the tools from the palace workshop, where she'd avoided mentioning why she needed them. She missed her old Scrounger suppliers and desperately hoped that she'd be able to retain her knowledge of their language. In the meantime, she had 2 days. 2 days to uncover a secret that baffled engineers since the creation of Nova Shields. She could have gone home to her personal workshop, but that would have required using the warp pads, and she'd already puked twice. Instead, Vane decided to do her work in the instruction room designated to her and Rokva. The kid wouldn't be there. He was off with his caretakers, doing something. But working in the classroom meant that if anyone stumbled upon her dropping explosions on a shield, she could always pass it off as preparation for one of the kid's lessons. Never mind that he had barely just turned 4. She could always say that if she... Oh dear heavens. Yippee. Oh. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Never mind that he had just barely turned 4. She could always say that if he was old enough to learn how to fight, he was old enough to make things explode. Shifting the massive box in her hands, Vane pushed up on the tips of her toes to press her bioband against the classroom's access panel. The door swung open to reveal Salakin, 2 other caretakers, and Rokva. "Sir Vane," Salakin said, dipping into a bow. "I'm grateful that you've agreed to take care of Rokva today." "What? But I didn't..." "It's incredibly generous of you," Salakin said, straightening up from her bow. You don't understand." Vane set her box down on the table in the middle of the room. "I have an assignment from the king. It's very urgent." "Oh, we all have many duties," Salakin said. "And you swore yourself to Prince Rokva. Are you already going to shirk your commitment to the prince?" "I'm not shirking anything," Vane said. "I'm just..." "Good. I'm glad you've accepted this responsibility. It's what you're meant to do. After all, the prince talks about you constantly. Salakin let a tiny smile slip past her lips, and she bowed again before vanishing with the other caretakers, leaving Vane alone in the room with the kid. Tears. Rakva dragged a chair over to the table, climbed on top of it, and dove directly into the box of very expensive materials. A squeak escaped Vane's throat, and she lunged forward, grabbing the kid under the arms.
Look!
Rakva held up a round Targauze transformer, as if it were a toy, and not something that could detonate the entire hallway. Vane shifted her grip so she held the kid with one arm, and used the other to pry the transformer from his fingers.
Very nice,
she said.
Let's not touch it.
She couldn't believe that Salakin would do this. Maybe the caretaker knew, somehow, about Vane's assignment from the king, and this was a way to sabotage it. Or, more likely, Salakin was just severely overworked and needed a break. Yes, that was it. Prince Rakva did seem to enjoy being around Vane, for some reason, and she could see how someone would assume that meant it would be fine to relinquish care over to her. So long as she didn't tell Iris, no one would get upset. This would be fine. Fine. The kid squirmed out of her grip and fell to the ground with a gentle splash, making his way to the box again. Vane scooped him up with her free arm, and he released a shriek that prompted her to fold her frills over her ears. Your Highness, I'm afraid I can't let you play with the items in that box. Vane struggled to keep the kid in her grip. He flailed, screech increasing in volume and pitch, and it took all her strength to keep both the kid and the transformer secure.
I don't want to play!
Rakva emphasized his words by clamping his teeth around Vane's arm. She yelped, dropping him, and he fell harder than he had before, landing on his side instead of his feet. Vane anticipated him to get up and go for the box again. Instead, he rolled onto his back while his eyes filled up with inky black tears. Vane sucked a breath in through her teeth and set the Targauze transformer back in the box, rubbing the bite mark the kid had left on her arm. What was wrong with him? Maybe the fact that he kept being passed around like a plate filled with hot garbage. Vane squeezed her eyes shut and knelt next to the kid, still holding her arm. Hey, kid. Can you tell me why you bit me?
I didn't want to be held.
The kid sat up, wrapping his arms around his legs.
I wanted you to put me down.
You could have just asked me, Vane said gently, remembering a phrase her mother had used with her when she'd been a kid. It's easier when you use your words. So, tell me, what do you really want right now? Rakva bit his lip.
I don't know. I just didn't want to be held. Holding means I'm in trouble.
I didn't want you to get hurt, Vane said, glancing at the box full of dangerous materials. There's a lot of stuff in there that's really dangerous.
But there wasn't last time.
Rakva folded his arms. Today is different. I didn't know. Vane trailed off. I didn't know you were going to be here. She didn't want to make the kid feel any worse. She sighed and twisted the end of her braid between her fingers. Are you saying you want to build something? Nodding, Rakva stuck his fingers in his mouth. He stood up, spread his arms wide, and ran around the room, making noises with his mouth.
I'm a spaceship!
Vane blinked, unsure how to respond to that. Hi, Bill. Thank you so much for the bits. Please, you can send me a message on Discord. I'd love to see what script you've gotten written up. Vane blinked, unsure how to respond to that. It had been a while since she'd interacted with kids, and she'd forgotten how strange they could be. You want to be a spaceship?
No, I am a spaceship.
Rakva turned to look at her and slammed face first into the wall. Instead of crying, he lay back. Instead of crying, he lay on his back for a few seconds, then said,
I'm a crashed spaceship.
He got right back up again and didn't stop moving until Vane strapped a pair of goggles to his head and invited him to sit in her lap while she worked on building the miniature Nova Shield. Let me do this. Where is the button? Thank you, Lena. Thank you. If you'd like to listen to any of my other readings, I post all of the public domain ones on YouTube. And if anybody is curious in chat, you can find me anywhere on any platform under the same name, StephTsu. Staring at my soul? Here. There you go, flashbang. Now you're purified. It's time to go to heaven. Get flashbanged. The kid squirmed a lot and ended up slamming his head against her chin. Vane winced, but once she slipped his tiny hands into her work gloves, pressing the backs of his hands against the hollows of her palms, he stopped moving almost entirely. Holding his hands in hers made the process slightly more difficult, but it was easier than trying to build something while chasing around a kid who was determined to bite everything in sight. They sat there for hours. Every time Vane had to get up to get a different tool or component, Rakva started acting up again. But the instant his hands nestled inside her gloves, it was like a breaker flipped off in his head. Vane didn't claim to understand what was going on, especially since she'd definitely not been like that as a kid. But he was perfectly content to sit there with her, so long as he was wearing the goggles and his hands were moving alongside hers. You're very good at this, Vane said, screwing a displacer plate in the bottom of the transformer. Rakva leaned back to look at her, goggles consuming half of his face, and he smiled. kids. They were so lucky. They didn't know how good they had it. They could smile at complete strangers and experience little to no consequences. If Vane had been a little more like Iris, she would have scolded the prince and reminded him that he needed to practice not smiling now, so he'd be good at it when he got older. But that didn't feel right. Instead, Vane smiled back. The peace that came from that decision was greater than the guilt. This is a good opportunity to take a drink of water. Vane stumbled into her new home, arms filled with half-completed shield Vane stumbled into her new home, arms filled with a half-completed shield generator, stomach crawling with hunger and warp sickness. She sucked in a breath through her teeth and dropped the box into the carpet, scattering the koi that tentatively circled the front room. How odd that they had a front room. Vane rubbed the back of her neck and stretched, groaning. "Iris?" No response. She lifted the box and staggered to her workshop, trying to avoid the koi darting up and down the hallway. Maybe there were only 10 of them, but they moved around so much it felt like there were more. When the king had said 2 days, had he included the current day in his calculations? Vane hoped not. Otherwise, she'd have to present a solution by the end of tomorrow, and she hadn't tested a single explosion. The more she thought about it, though, the more unlikely it seemed that any explosion could penetrate the shield walls. Nova-class shields were built to absorb all energy when they were hit, and increasing the amount of firepower would just feed the shield further. There was a reason none of the royal engineers had found a solution yet. But Vane had to find a way to make it work. As nice as it would be to see her parents again, it wasn't worth getting banished to Draxus. Iris would never forgive her. It took her a moment to lay out all her materials onto the workshop bench, and she allowed herself a moment of rest, clutching the back of the chair pushed up against the desk. Nausea bubbled up her throat, and she swallowed, forcing it down. Eventually she would get used to the warp pads, right? She had to, because she didn't know if she'd be able to feel like this every single day. "Iris!" Vane called out again, fingers tightening around the chair's back. Face itch. "Iris!" Vane called out again, fingers tightening around the chair's back. Nothing. Nothing. Forcing down the urge to panic, Vane took a seat and resumed work on the miniature shield generator. Without Rakva there, the process was technically faster, but she couldn't ignore the hollow feeling in her gut that had appeared once Salakin had finally retrieved him for the day. It seemed like hours before the front door hissed open and Iris entered with a weighted sigh, groaning as a weapon dropped into the water with a plink. "Vane!" "I'm in here," Vane called, connecting her bioband to the shield generator via a thin string of slimy biowater. How did your day go? Iris sighed again, and her footsteps grew louder as she approached, until her arms draped over Vane's shoulders. Exhausting. Maybe I shouldn't have picked the king to be my liege. Someone tried talking to him after his evening meal today, and he ripped their arm off. I didn't think that was possible. He's definitely a piece of work, Vane muttered, typing strings of code into her bioband. Vane, Iris said with a gasp, jerking away. You can't speak like that. You used to. We've gone over this. Iris said, gripping Vane's shoulders. We are the most devout worshippers of the crown, both in public and in private. Vane frowned. She really didn't like this new set of rules. Of course, Sir Iris. My apologies. Iris slightly knocked Vane's head aside with the heel of her palm. Cut it out. We can be informal with each other, but we can't do the same when it comes to the royal family, especially not in regard to the wedded consort to the sovereign crown. That's a very convoluted way to say the king, Vane completed writing the standard defense sequence and commanded it to upload the shield generator. A tiny clump of algae zipped from her bioband, through the clear biowater strand, and into the generator's calculation node. Pressing her palms against the table, Iris swung her body on an empty spot of Vane's workspace and sat down, legs dangling. And your words are a very convoluted way of saying I'd really like to get banished. I'm not going to get banished, Vane said. Then, under her breath, added, Not yet. Don't, Iris said. I have enough to worry about as it is. Yes, sir, Vane muttered. If you get cheeky with me one more time, I will set you on fire. Cocking her head, Iris gestured at Vane's project. What is this? Will I die if I touch it? A Nova-class shield generator. It's for His Royal Majesty's specially requested project. Vane rubbed at her eyes with the heels of her hands. Iris's lips twisted into a grimace. Doesn't he have literal armies of engineers who do his bidding? Apparently, I know more than all of them. Vane hadn't had time to slow down and panic yet. Maybe, if she kept working and refused to let the rational part of her brain take over, she wouldn't be able to recognize the horrific reality of the situation. Well, you are smart, Iris said. Brilliant, in fact. I'm sure that you'll be able to do whatever he needs you to do, and given a few weeks, given a few weeks, you'll know just as much about shield generators as 2 days. Vane blurted out. I'm supposed to finish this in 2 days. That was my stomach. Why does this happen to me? Iris stared at her, jaw slightly agape. You're supposed to build a Nova shield? In 2 days? No, Vane said. I'm supposed to find a way to breach one. Iris's hanging jaw snapped shut. I'm still not condoning what you said earlier about, But I understand. She groaned and pushed a hand through her hair. I'm a dumb grunt, and even I know that goes against the whole point of a Nova Shield. Somehow, hearing that from Iris was comforting and horrifying at the same time. If even Iris didn't have faith in her, how much of a chance did she have to pull this off? Maybe it wasn't worth trying to get this done. Maybe she should just give up and enjoy her last 2 days. Or was it just a single day? If she tried clarifying with the king, he'd probably get angry and shorten the deadline even further. That's what Zavo would have done. Zavo. The uninvited, the image of a trident sprouting through Zavo's chest flashed behind her eyelids. She shook her head, pinching the bridge of her nose. What am I gonna do, Iris? Could you wipe your bioband data and flee the galaxy? Apparently I'm supposed to whisper that. I can read. Could you wipe your bioband data and flee the galaxy? Iris whispered. I'm serious. Vane hadn't even considered that. I don't know. My data would be really difficult to get rid of because of, She pointed at the Weeper's mark on her face. If I had access to the data center in the palace, Iris raised her eyebrows and tilted her head to the side. Just because it's close doesn't mean I have access, Vane said. And I'm not going to commit treason again. I can't risk anything happening to you or Mom or Papa. I can't lose you, Vane. You know what I'm willing to do to keep you safe. She did. And she didn't like it. I'll figure something out. But you're expected to do something that's literally impossible. I can't believe you're actually trying. I thought you wanted me to have more confidence, Iris, Vane said. Not insane arrogance. Iris plunged her hands into her curls. How are you so calm? He handed you a death sentence and you're acting like it was a homework assignment. There wasn't a right way to respond to that. What was I supposed to do? Save him the trouble and press a blaster against my skull? No. Maybe you could have explained to him that it's not possible or something. Maybe he wouldn't have made you do it if he understood. Iris, Vane said quietly. He knows. They never actually wanted me to work on the royal campus. Iris shook her head. The Crown wouldn't do that. They're honorable. They're everything Papa said they were, Vane said, almost whispering. Silence for a moment. Tears, Iris finally said. There's no way out of this, is there? A dark hollowness finally settled in the pit of Vane's stomach. We've been in worse spots before. Have we? Iris folded her arms, refusing to make eye contact. We didn't have all the most powerful people in the galaxy watching us before. We might not be on a battlefield, but they couldn't exactly run away without being noticed. I'll figure something out, Vane said again. The deadline isn't here yet. Maybe I won't be able to find a way to breach the shield. Maybe I won't be able to find a way to breach the shield with a detonation, but there's a chance I could still find a way to disable it. You know, I believe in you more than I believe in anyone else. But Iris tightened her grip on her curls and squeezed her eyes shut, biting her lip. I'll find a way to get you to safety. No, Vane said, the word flying out of her mouth faster than she'd anticipated. I can't get you into trouble. I can't get you in trouble. You finally have everything you ever wanted. A bit of blood ran down Iris's chin from the place where her teeth tore into her lip. I just got you back, Vane. I've only had you safe for 3 weeks. It's 3 more weeks than we would have gotten otherwise, Vane said. Iris said nothing. She just sat there with her eyes shut as drops of violet ran down her chin and dripped into the carpet. Iris, Vane said softly, reaching out. Iris grabbed her wrist, and for a moment, Vane feared her sister would shout or shove her or something. I can get you out, Iris said, but only if you want me to. Please tell me you want me to. Vane thought about it for a few moments, heart racing. Could she do it? Start over again? Live her entire life terrified of being found out? Of Iris being found out? No, it would be too much. I'm going to work tomorrow, Vane said. I'm going to try to find a way to breach a Nova Shield. Iris's fingers tightened around her wrist. Please, Vane said. Please, Vane said. I want to spend tomorrow working with my hands. Iris relinquished her hold and turned away without a word. She wiped at her chin and left the room. Sippy time. Drink your water, chat. Hydration. Exclamation point, book. Oh, damn it, of course it didn't work. Thank you, Shattered. Okay. Vane didn't use the warp pads to get to the palace. Instead, she piled everything onto a makeshift raft and towed it behind her, moving against the current of the walkway. Iris had been gone when she'd woken up. That was fine. Maybe it would have been nice to say goodbye, but she'd already done that weeks ago. And maybe Vane would actually do it. As terrible as Walkmaw had been, the entire event had proved to her that she could, in fact, win. So perhaps there would be no need for goodbyes. If this stupid plan she'd concocted in the early hours of the morning before falling into a restless sleep, if it were to work, she needed to depend on a few things. The most important being that Salakin hadn't magically changed her personality. With false confidence, Vane wound her way to the quarter of the palace that housed the royal family. Most of the chambers were empty, meant for siblings, aunts, uncles, relatives that had been alive and thriving in Vane's early childhood. All gone now. Vane didn't know how she should feel about that. The current crown certainly didn't mind that they were gone, and her parents had practically rejoiced with every member of the royalty that fell. No memorials had been placed, nor reverence given. It made her sad, almost, except that no one had made memorials or given reverence to the Weeper corpses that piled up on Draxus. Perhaps it was possible to mourn both. She wouldn't be the one to do it. She came to a stop at a door that, from the outset, looked as unremarkably remarkable as all the rest. Gaudy, ornate, yet soulless. Flaring her gills open and shut, Vane rapped on the door. It swung open almost immediately, revealing Salakin. The caretaker's face twisted in confusion. "Sir Vane." "I'm here for the prince," Vane said. "I'm retrieving him early today for additional training. You could probably take the day off." Salakin tilted her head, frills twitching downward. "Are you sure?" "You're very busy," Vane said. I thought I'd take a bit off your plate." Before Salakin could argue further, Rakva barreled into Vane's legs, crushing her knees with all the force of an overexcited toddler. "Sir Vane! It's you, Gim!" Vane smiled. "Are you ready to do experiments today?" Instead of responding, Rakva wiped his nose on her pants and crawled onto the raft, making the components inside clatter. The lip of the raft lowered dangerously close to the edge of the carpet, but ultimately didn't succumb to the water. "I'll be returning him at the end of the day," Vane said, almost bending into a bow of submission. Instead, she kept her spine straight and her gaze cold. "Enjoy your time off, caretaker Salakin." Before Salakin could respond, Vane pulled the raft behind her as Rakva squealed in delight. It gave her enough time to quiet her heart as she wound through the curved hallways of the palace, debating whether to take a warp pad down to the lower levels. The alternative was a steep, twisting ramp with extremely shallow water that wouldn't lend itself well to the teetering raft. She decided to turn to the native residents. Stupid mistakes, man. Coffee, thank you so much for the streak. I
I don't know that does anybody else have like a streak that big? That's a big streak. Oh, wood has over a 35-day streak. That's a lot of streaks. Big streaking. Haha, funny.
Have a good day, Meat Peach. Thank you for being here. Three stream? Yep.
That's, I think that a three stream streak, say that 5 times fast. I think that is still an amazing streak. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to turn my hands off. There we go.
She decided to turn to the native resident for guidance. Prince Rakva, will you be alright if we take the warp pad? Rakva scrunched up his nose and pulled his knees to his chest. Duh. You won't be upset? I like how it makes my stomach tickle. Well, if he was telling the truth, that was one problem knocked off the ever-growing list. It didn't take long for Vane to find a warp pad that sent them down to the lower levels of the palace, consuming her vision in brilliant lights and making every molecule impossibly weak. It was a little better than the previous dozen or so experiences, but still nauseating. Maybe she was getting used to it. Rakva, on the other hand, didn't seem to notice. He kept babbling just as much as he had before, lifting 2 different pieces of equipment and lightly mashing them together. Content that the kid was doing just fine, Vane stumbled out of the warp area, checking the map on her wrist to make sure she was headed for the right place. According to the research she'd done, there should have been an empty supply closet there. Vane scanned her bioband against the access panel on the wall, prompting a door to slide open to reveal a very large and vacant closet. She tugged the raft inside before emptying its contents, assembling the shield generator as she went. She still had no idea if it worked or not. What are these? Rakva asked, lifting up a tiny pair of goggles that Vane had hastily made this morning. They're for you, Vane said, clicking one of the shield's components into place. The other ones were a little big. Rakva's eyes widened, and he immediately did his best to strap the goggles on. In the end, he was left with crooked protection that covered more of his eyebrows than his eyes. That could be fixed later. Vane finished assembling the shield generator and stepped back to admire her work, placing her hands on her hips. It looked like it had been thrown together with random components found in the dump, because it had, but in theory, it would be perfectly functional. Nova generators weren't that difficult to make, it turned out. They were just almost impossible to power. Okay, kid, Vane said, strapping goggles to her own face. I'm going to be gone for a few minutes. I need you to hold this. She handed a wrench to Rakva, and he accepted it with an air of reverence. Where are you going? Rakva asked, clutching the wrench to his chest. It was almost half his size, but he still managed to keep hold of it. Getting power, Stay here. Guard that wrench and don't let anyone take it from you. After looping several long sections of wire over her shoulder, Vane fiddled with the room's access panel to lock the door open before making her way to the power generator next door. She brought her night sigil up on her wrist, flashing it at the technician standing guard. She didn't have time to convince anyone that she belonged here. Before the technician could protest, Vane hooked her wires into the outlets and dragged them back to the supply cot. Closet. Rakva, miraculously, was right where she left him. Oh no, I am losing my ability to be literate. Let's take a deep breath, chat. Collectively. Hi, Jonathan. Collectively, we're going to take a deep breath in, and then hold it, and then let it out, okay? Deep breath in. Hold it. And let it out. I also needed a yawn and stretch. Oh, stretch with me, chat. Hold on, I got rid of my hands. Let me turn my hands back on. Oh, big stretchies. That was my neck. Okay. Slow and steady, yes. Hi, Father. Father Slice. Still such an interesting name. I love all the unique usernames that come through on Twitch. There's some strange ones on TikTok sometimes. Some very suspicious names on TikTok. Sometimes. Not so much today, but sometimes. But Twitch, there's usually, like, funny haha ones, you know? Alright. What? What? What do you mean sus? What do you mean sausage? Sausage? Breakfast sausage. I can't have pork. My cardiologist told me no more pork. Anyway. Before the technician could protest, Vane hooked her wires into the outlets and dragged them back to the supply closet. Rakva, miraculously, was right where she'd left him. You did a good job, Vane said, clicking the wires into the shield generator. Can you hold it for just a little longer? Rakva nodded vigorously, makeshift goggles slipping down his face. What are you doing? Hopefully not making a mistake. Vane pulled away from the generator and adjusted Rakva's goggles, tugging the straps behind his frills. Okay, go into the corner and cover your head. Is it gonna explode? Rakva asked, perking up. Vane shrugged. We're about to find out. She synced her bioband with the generator and withdrew into the corner of the room, gesturing for Rakva to follow. Get behind me and plug your ears, kid. Releasing a squeak, Rakva folded his frills against his skull and scurried across the floor, still carrying the wrench. Ready? Vane hovered her fingers over the activation sigil on her bioband. Explode it! The prince shouted. Please work, Vane thought.
She pushed her finger against the algae sigil, and a low thrum emanated from the generator. Dots of bright energy rushed through the clear wires connected to the power generator, stuttering at first, before lengthening into a constant stream of white-hot luminance. A sphere of writhing purple and blue energy sprang to life above the generator, standing just barely above Vane's shoulders. The constant whirs and crackles from the shield were annoying, but not loud enough to damage her ears. The palace lights flickered, reminding her that their time was limited. Vane pulled the wrench from Rakva's hands and swung it into the shield. A blast of energy rocketed up her arm and into her teeth, making every molecule in her body rattle. She staggered back, blinking away blurry spots in her vision. Rubbing at her eyes with the heel of her hand, she couldn't help but grin. She'd made a Nova-tier shield. Celebration, however, would have to come later. The lights were rapidly dimming, so Vane toggled the algae sigil on her bioband. With an abrupt silence that was almost more painful than the noise it had replaced, the azure and lilac energy forming the shield vanished, leaving nothing but motes drifting through the air.
Oh,
Rakva said, shoulders slumping in disappointment.
It didn't explode.
No, it did something even better. No, it did something even better. Vane's grin remained, but she quickly set it aside as a technician rushed into the room. What in the name of the crown is... They trailed off, lips curling into a snarl. I don't know why you're building a shield generator in here, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Though Vane's instincts were to cower and apologize, she instead lifted her goggles and commanded her bioband to swirl upward to form her knight's sigil. This room is being commandeered by a knight of the crown, just for today. A knight? But you're... Understanding flickered over the technician's face, and their frills deflated. The weeping butcher. Indeed. That was a knightly thing to say, right? Way better than, I'm sorry, please don't hurt me, I'll do anything you ask if you leave me alone. So if you wouldn't mind vacating the area, I'd appreciate it. Vane gestured towards the door and turned to her raft, where a box of unused components sat, ready to be turned into something new. The technician stood in the doorway and refused to move. If you're going to stay, I'll put you to work, Vane said, lifting her eyebrows. I'd appreciate the help. I'm in a bit of a time crunch. You don't belong here, the technician said. Vane rolled her eyes. She was going to be banished tomorrow. She didn't have time to be dragged into the palace's identity politics. Are you going to leave me alone, or are you going to defy the orders of the Crown Knight? Are you going to leave me alone, or are you going to defy the orders of a Crown Knight? With smoldering fury in their eyes, the technician tightened their hands into fists before slinking away. Pleasure meeting you, Vane muttered. Maybe she should have asked for their name. She had a feeling that by the end of the day, she and the technicians would be very well acquainted with each other. Rakva tottered past her, awkwardly tugging at the goggles on his face. Oh, I can't. Don't take those off yet, Vane said. We're just starting. Remember that big shield we made? Pausing only for a moment, Rakva kept his grip on his goggles. Yeah. We're going to try to break it. Vane shoved the component box over with her foot, letting everything inside spill into the water. Let's go to work. Let's get to work.
What's my heart rate? Oh, I'm not wearing... Shoot. I'm not wearing my... My heart feels thumpy thumpy. Is my heart normally this thumpy thumpy? Am I okay? Am I dying? Are you okay? I'm alive. I don't often mention it, but I don't know if I need to remind people, but I have a chronic illness. It's part of my nervous system doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And if you might remember from school, your nervous system affects everything in the body. So, excuse me, that was gross. So my body doesn't work correctly in a couple of different ways, and one of them, which is most identifiable, is my heart. So, I'm actually wearing my compression leggings today because my symptoms have been worse the past 2 months. My doctor told me that I should start wearing my compression leggings every single day, which is so inconvenient. And he has also challenged me to drink more than 120 ounces of water every day. Especially as it starts to get hot outside. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I'm currently a little over 40 right now. But that's why it's important that you guys make me hydrate. Also, my heart rate is 113 right now. I don't know why. Yeah, Mez, you know how it is. Hi, Daniel. Take care of your heart. I'd like to. I'd very much like to. I try my best. 113 is a bit high? Yeah. Especially given that I'm literally just sitting here. 2 liters. That's 3.5 liters. Yes. My eyes like almost bulged out of my head when my cardiologist told me, like, yeah, well, as summer comes around and the weather gets hotter, like, you actually need to drink up to 160 fluid ounces of water in a day. And I'm like, dude, I just told you I'm lucky if I get 80 ounces of water in a day. You want me to double that? So that's cool. That's great. It's fantastic. Yeah. So not only I've just got a lot of health issues, but I'm really trying to hang in there. So I feel my heart right now. Unfortunately, I don't have a 3DO where I can just hold the microphone to my chest so that you guys can hear my heartbeat. I might be able to do that with my current setup, or like the Yeti microphone. I might be able to. Hi, GOTC. You're strong. I'm strong because I have to be. Wappa, wappa. I'll fight anybody. I need a Steph. Ha ha.
StephTsu. I'm about to make tea. Ooh, if it's an herbal tea, can I have some too? If anyone who is missing a large intestine, they're great for hydration tips. Since that, oh wow, didn't know that. Hi, Sammy. Good morning, anxiety. Yes, Father Slice. I do try. I mean, it's hard, but if it's generally recommended for someone with my condition to consume 4 to 9 grams of sodium in a day. So the fact that I'm told, hey, you need to be getting at least 4 grams of sodium and at least 120 ounces of water. I haven't done this recently, but normally when I get my water, I ask you guys to guess what kind of electrolytes I have, because I'm not allowed to drink water that doesn't have sodium in it, because it'll just go right through my body. It'll just go right through me and it won't stick. So, do you guys want to guess what kind of electrolytes I have today? What flavor? I have to stay away from sugar. From added sugar. I can have things that have a light amount. As someone with POTS, that shit don't play around. Yeah, Lena, you have POTS. I have what I call the opposite of POTS. With POTS, your heart rate is too high, like all the time. Mine is the opposite. In the past year, it's improved. Actually, it's improved in the past 6 months. But prior to getting diagnosed, my resting heart rate, whether I was asleep or awake, my resting heart rate was 40. And on a couple of occasions, my heart rate actually dipped down to 30. It did not, stay at 30, but it has been documented to dip down to 30. So my body is always trying to shut down and go to sleep, which is why it explains so much. For the past 12 years, I have had problems with fainting and lightheadedness, vertigo. God, the list is long. And now I have answers. It's very comforting to finally be educated on why certain things were difficult back then. Now I know. The only downside is that it just seems to get worse. So I don't talk about it very much because I don't talk about it very much because it's hard for other people to relate to or understand. If I say I got 6 hours of sleep, that's a terrible thing for me. I will be very symptomatic if I do not get more than 8 hours of sleep. And there's nothing I can do about it. If I get 6 hours of sleep and I come into work and I'm like, oh yeah, I feel terrible, I only got this much sleep. To my coworkers, they're like, oh, right, when I don't get enough sleep, I just drink some more coffee and I tell myself I'm not going to do that again. For me, I end up looking like all of the blood is drained from my face and I'm laying on the floor barely coherent because my body doesn't know how to react. And it can get really frustrating having to or trying to explain myself to everyone all the time. And I think that's common with chronic illness, is that not everybody's going to understand. So maybe there's a day that I can, cover it a little bit more and really talk about what it's like to be in my shoes. But most of the time I just don't mention it. I figure all that you guys care about is the reading. Or the ASMR. Double exhausting, can't stand on your feet. And yeah, can't stay on your feet, actually, it's really ironic. Around this time last year, I went into the office because our company decided everybody has to go back to the office. And I was getting chest pains and it was a strange chest pain that just wouldn't go away. And I was like, oh my God, am I having a heart attack? Like, I know there's something wrong with my heart, but like, am I having a heart attack? No, I couldn't be having a heart attack because like, this is just going on for too long, but like, it doesn't feel good. And so I laid on the ground, I ate some food, I drank some water, talked to my coworkers, and it just would not go away. And my manager walked in, she panicked because I was laying on the floor. My coworkers are like, she's been having chest pain. We've been trying to tell her to leave. And my manager's like, leave? Like, go somewhere, anywhere. Just don't be here. I went to my cardiologist, who just happened to be down the street. And they were like, yeah, well, you're not having the chest pain anymore. And you're not dead. So we don't need to worry about that. But I looked at the rest of your medical history, and I'm going to give you a second opinion that you didn't ask for. Guys, that second opinion got me my diagnosis. Was it a heart attack? I don't fucking know, but I'm still alive, so hey, there's that. Go somewhere, anywhere is, yes, shattered. That's why I was like, that's an interesting thing to say, is like, oh, you're having a heart attack? Just don't be in the office. Thank you, Wish. Ultimately, it's up to you to share it in the right people. Yes, Lena, yes. It's an enlightening experience to not only discover that I have a chronic illness, but it's actually what you would call a dynamic, invisible disability, because it is disabling. On my worst days, I can't even walk around my own house. I can't. And it's invisible because unless I am pale as a ghost and laying down on the floor because I pass the fuck out, you won't know. Wow. And it's dynamic because on days like today, I can actually walk around my house. I can actually, like a couple days ago, I could actually do some form of cooking. But the next day, no. The next day, I can't cook. The next day, it's ramen because I go to the kitchen, I press the button on the electric kettle that says boil, and I wait for it to boil and then ramen, you know, and I go lay down on the couch where I've been all day. It's a time. It's a time. Let's see. Doctors that do their due diligence for people with chronic illness. Yes, it is so rare. And I am unfortunately having to go through the process of looking for a new doctor, because I've finally had it with the fact that my doctor does not care enough about the symptoms that I'm experiencing, and even in some cases completely dismissing it. What? Oh my god, Wish, are you okay? You're all good, but it hasn't happened. Do you know why that happened? That's really scary. Why are there fishies whenever... Oh my god, why are you guys like congregating right behind my head? That's really funny. Let me try to fix that. Okay, that was that one. Yeah, why are you guys like all right behind my head? Like, what are you doing there? Okay, if you're watching on Twitch and you have a fishy in the background, go ahead and spam, put a bunch of messages in chat so that your fishy can move around so I can make sure that it's fixed. Sounds like it's time to get yourself a new doc. Yes, but question is, how do you get a new doctor that is going to be familiar with either, you know, dealing with chronic illness or with POTS-like symptoms? I love the fish. I do too. If you'd like a fish of your own, the chats on Twitch and YouTube, those are the only two chats that we have the API set up in order for the fishies to happen. We're not plotting anything. I'm good. Just something to do with oxygen to my brain when I stood up too fast. It's the first time but Wish, that's a bad thing. What you... Please let me tell you from my 12 years of undiagnosed experience. Get an autonomic nervous test. Do it. Do it. Because it will tell you. It will tell you what, if that has to do with your heart rate and your blood pressure. The autonomic nervous test is not invasive. They hook you up to a bunch of stickies and they put a blood pressure cuff on you and you sit there so they can take your vitals, and then you hold your breath and they take your vitals, and then you stand up and they take your vitals, and then you sit down, they take your vitals, and then you're done. And then you immediately get the results in the spot. It's easy peasy. It's insane that 12 years of my life I had no explanation for what was happening, and then I get that test, and 15 minutes and I have my answers. Please don't suffer anymore. My doctor is amazing. I'm sad because he's leaving to go to another state. Oh, that sucks. Definitely rely on any of the recommendations that your doctor has. I deal with hypovolemic POTS, high heart rate, low blood pressure. I've been on a medication that has raised my heart rate over time, and it is so helpful, but it does not get rid of... Wish, if you send me a message, you can just ask me what was the test, or like, test name ? I will be able to type it out for you, and if it is helpful, I can even like send you like a Google link that will be able to explain it better than I can. But I wish that... Oh, I was gonna go to the clip function. Yes. The autonomic nervous system, ANS. So if anybody has a concern with, your heart rate and blood pressure and passing out, and, you get kind of a fuzzy vertigo and fatigue that just isn't, it's not I'm sleepy kind of a fatigue. It's I am exhausted kind of a fatigue. You want to look for a ANS test. And it's like, I think if you are based in the US and you don't have insurance, I think it's like $220, which is not cheap, but it could be. It's helpful. Because certain things have been triggering my symptoms. I should write a book because I feel very successful. I was like, I'm doing that. How did you know? That's really funny. They know. Dangerous pronunciation. I want tilt table test. I've never done a tilt table test. When I've done an IV contrast, I've done like multiple heart monitors, like I've done so many things, but it was the ANS test that was exactly what I needed. We should get back to the reading though. I have 11 more pages to read. Ugh. After I scratch my eyeballs out. But yeah, no, my heart rate was 113. Let's see. What is it now? Where's the button? Welcome to our fishies, and thank you so much for the follows. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to drink your water. Why are you so close? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just... There. Is that better? When I stand up, woozy, but yawning after, dude, the yawning. There are some people in stream here that might remember back in the day before I was a VTuber, where I would get so mad that I was yawning constantly. When I first started doing reading streams, I would start stream and then I would start yawning, and it drove me crazy. I was so mad. Lights off. Okay, what is my heart rate right now? This is important information. Why is it 107? Stretch. A big stretch. Big stretch. 107 ain't bad? What, for just sitting still in a chair? Oh, never mind. It's 111. Do you guys want to know what my sleeping heart rate is? 62. It took 8 months. It took 8 months to get my heart rate from 40 to 62. So the next time that you see someone who looks like they are obviously struggling to carry their groceries or their luggage, or they look like they're walking slowly, maybe stop to consider that they are not as healthy as you think they are. Because I promise you, getting a 50-pound luggage out of the overhead bin is not fun when you're disabled. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Who wants to read? Put a 1 in chat. Anxiety is ready to read. Are the fishies fixed yet? I think you're kind of... It's still kind of weird. I don't know why. How the hell is there still one fishy that's like up there, you know? Ace Barmans is ready, Pro Self Love is ready, Baifu is ready, Shattered is ready. I don't think most people are healthy anyway. No. Dev is ready, Northern Light is ready, Father Slice is ready, Requies is ready, Lena is ready. I thought helping people was common courtesy. Apparently not. Noble is ready. Happy either way. All right, let's keep going. We've got 11 more pages to go before the chapter is over. We're going to try to break it. Vane shoved the component box over with her foot, letting everything inside spill into the water. Let's get to work. The next hour was spent creating several different contraptions, each with its own unique intended method of breaking through the Nova barrier. She decided not to waste her time testing blaster fire. That would require activating the weapon at her hip, and she was not going to experiment with live fire while Rokva was in the room. In fact, she wasn't going to bother with creating any explosions at all. There would have to be another way. And maybe, if she was very, very lucky, she and the prince would find the solution today. Once again, he settled into her lap, slipping his hands next to hers and allowing her to guide his fingers. He even managed to listen to her instructions about half the time, poking his little tongue out the corner of his mouth as he struggled to decide whether he wanted to build something independently or work with her. By now, something resembling trust had been forged, and they eventually fell into the trance they'd established the day before. When he needed a break, Vane let him wander while she had him practice saying, "I'll get you in trouble," in case someone tried to oust them from the room. Once they'd completed 3 very, very simple devices, Vane decided it was time to test the shields again. After a brief inspection to make sure the wires were connected directly to the generator, she knelt next to Rokva, double and triple checking every piece of equipment in the room. "I think we're ready," Vane said, putting her hands on her hips. "Wouldn't you say so, Prince Rokva?" "Wouldn't you say so, Prince Rokva?" No response. Vane whirled around to see a tiny foot darting through the carpet and flashing out of the doorway. Though she'd promised herself not to do anything the way Salakan though she'd promised herself not to do anything the way Salakin did. She darted forward and grabbed Rakva by the waist and hauled him back inside while he screamed like someone had just stabbed him. Just like that, all their progress evaporated. Vane grunted as the kid wailed and screamed, attracting an audience of disgruntled technicians that slowly filled the open doorway. Tears. "Hey," Vane whispered, gripping the kid's shoulders. "Listen, you can't swim off like that. We're about to get to the coolest part." The kid arched his back and fell backward, nearly banging his head. Vane caught him in time, casting a sideways glance at the technicians. Some of them looked ready to call someone. Making sure the kid's goggles were properly applied, Vane took a risk and activated the shield. With a hum and a desperate snap, the shield sprung to life, coating the room in marbled lilac and azure lights. A few of the nosy technicians yelped and jumped back, hands instantly going for the weapons at their hips. Rakva fell silent, slowly sitting up to watch the light show. Vane pressed one of the devices they'd made into Rakva's fingers, and the kid instantly chucked it at the shield. Instead of bouncing off, the paper-like cylinder ignited in a burst of flame and slid off the sphere's surface, plopping onto the carpet with a hiss. "Good job," Vane said, mussing the kid's hair. "Let's get the rest of them." "Let's test the rest of them." The next minute felt like the opening to a bad freak show. Every device they'd constructed failed miserably, and the technicians scoffed with each catastrophic display. Ooh, that one's a tongue twister. Oh, I just realized I forgot something. Where's the puzzle? I can't believe I forgot the puzzle. Excuse me. Here you go. If anybody on Twitch wanted a puzzle, if anybody on TikTok wants to solve a puzzle, you can check out the link in my profile. And under other links, you'll find the community puzzle. I'm so distracted. Every single device they'd constructed failed miserably, and the technicians scoffed with each catastrophic display, even ignoring the continually dimming lights of the palace. It wasn't until the room was almost entirely engulfed in darkness that Vane finally shut off the generator, and the tiny crowd dispersed as the lights returned. Sighing, Vane plopped down against the wall and ran a hand through her hair while Rakva fiddled with his bioband. What had she been expecting? To crack the impossible problem on the first try? Maybe not, but she hadn't anticipated an audience. "All right, kid, it's time to get back to work." Once again, they fell into a routine. Create, test, fail, repeat. Over and over and over. The kid would occasionally try to run, but most of the time Vane was able to catch his attention and convince him that this place was far more interesting than anything the technicians were up to. When it finally came time for a meal break, Vane set him in the corner with a seaweed wrap while she continued to work. There wasn't time for her to eat. Besides, she had a feeling that maybe, perhaps, she was getting a little bit closer if she had a little more time. A figure in a knight's uniform entered the doorway. Maybe she had even less time than she thought. Vane gave a simple nod to the newcomer. Before returning to her next project, something that could hijack the commands issued through her bioband.
Sir Vane, the newcomer said, you need to leave. Now. You're causing the lights to dim throughout the entire palace. The prince has already missed 2 of his scheduled tutoring sessions, and you're single-handedly dropping the productivity of the entire power department.
What a shame, Vane muttered, bringing her knight's sigil up even as her heart rate increased. The knight lifted up his own sigil, which was far more complex than hers.
Pack up your science project and leave.
Tears. He was actually important. She'd just have to pretend that she didn't care. I don't follow your orders, she said with a shrug. I follow his. She nodded to Rakva, praying he remembered the one thing she'd try to teach him today. Rakva looked up from his lunch, cheeks full of food. Without bothering to swallow, he said, I'll get you in trouble. Scoffing, the knight folded his arms.
That child is far from the final say in this palace.
Does that mean you're going to get his parents? I'm sure they'd be more than happy to take some time out of their day to respond to the complaints about the lighting situation. I'll get you in trouble, Rakva said again. Vane wasn't even sure he understood what he was saying, but she was grateful for it nonetheless. The knight clenched his jaw, and for a moment, Vane was afraid he might attack her. Vane was afraid he might try to attack her. If you want to challenge his authority, please, go ahead. Vane adjusted her goggles and pushed a glob of charged biomatter in between 2 plates of glass. She focused on her work. If she focused on her work, then she wouldn't have an opportunity to panic and mess this up. I'm sure it'll make you look very good.
I know you're new to the palace, but even a weeper like yourself must understand that this is frankly absurd behavior, the knight said. This will not end well for you.
Vane chuckled, prompting a few stifled gasps from the small crowd. Instead of being mortified, she basked in the taboo. What were they going to do to her? Get her in trouble with the king? Listen, sir. Nothing is going to end well for me. My fate was sealed the instant I stepped into the palace. If you'd like to accelerate the inevitable, then do it. I won't try to stop you.
This will have consequences,
the knight said, jabbing his finger in her direction. Calm down. I won't be back tomorrow. And even if this does continue... She nodded at Rakva. I'll get you in trouble, Rakva said. He sounded delighted with his newfound power. Shrugging apologetically, Vane clicked a component in place. Who am I to argue with a member of the crown?
He's a child,
the knight said. A spare. And you are speaking with an incredible amount of irreverence. Vane lifted her new device above her head, checking to see if the light filtered through. Would be a shame if anyone happened to know you said that.
I'll kill you.
A lump formed in Vane's throat. Time for even more bravado. For the first time since the interaction started, Vane made fierce eye contact with the knight, staring into his ferocious orange eyes. Get in line. After a moment of silence, he scoffed. You're not worth it. Finally, you understand. Vane fished a silver pearl from her pocket and flicked it his way. I'm sure you're a very busy man who has better things to do than get dragged into the disputes of lowly technicians and weepers. The knight didn't move to catch the pearl, letting it plink into the water at his feet. He turned away, taking a few members of his entourage with him. Okay, kid, Vane said. It's the last one. She adjusted her goggles, checking to make sure Rokva was behind her before she activated the Nova Shield. As it flared to life, she twisted a dial on a device on the ground and kicked it into the Nova Shield. It sparked before collapsing in on itself with a soft pop. Well, the day was over, and that had been her last hope. At least she would know with absolute confidence that core fawn emitters did absolutely nothing to impact the overall integrity of a Nova Shield. And now time to tell the king that she'd failed. Maybe she wouldn't tell him. Maybe she would just go home and wait. The more she thought about it, the more she realized she couldn't stand to wait for the inevitable. Instead, she'd approach the king. Admit defeat, and accept his punishment. Vane pressed her palms against her forehead and groaned. All options from here on out would be painful, and Vane was a coward. As she moved to switch off the generator, a gray glob flew past her head and spattered across the shield's surface, hissing ferociously. She clenched her jaw, deactivated the generator, and turned around to see a very guilty-looking Rokva, sans bioband, holding a gray tube in one hand. Rokva, did you throw something at me? Vane asked, folding her arms. Rokva quickly put both hands behind his back, and the tube splashed into the carpet behind him. I missed. Vane sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose. And what happened to your bioband? It's what I throwed, Rokva said, avoiding her eyes. Is there a reason you decided to throw something at me? Vane asked, tilting her head. Shrugging, Rokva turned away and stared at the wall. I don't know. Kids. Well, don't throw things at me anymore, please. It's not polite. Vane began the long task of packing away the shield generator as if it was a perfectly normal end of day. She was lucky. If she was lucky, she'd find a way to talk to the king without getting jumped by an angry power operator first. As she moved the shield generator's components to the sled, a bit of Rokva's bioband clung to her boot, and she shook it off, grumbling about how she'd need to get the kid a new bioband on top of everything else. And now that he knew how to take it off, it would practically
And now that he knew how to take it off, it would be practically impossible to keep him from... A bit of Rokva's bioband clung to her boot. Vane's head snapped up as she quickly took inventory of where she was. If the shield had been active, it would have enclosed her entirely, which meant that the biomatter had somehow made it through the shield. Not in one piece, but it had made it. A jolt of excitement surged up Vane's core. This could be done. This could be done! "Kid, you saved me," she said, dropping to her knees and scooping up every single bit of biomatter that landed within the shield's radius.
"Yeah, I know,"
Rokva said, placing his hands on his hips.
What did I do?
I forgot. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you when you're older. She didn't want the kid to think he'd be rewarded whatever... She didn't want the kid to think he'd be rewarded whenever he flung a random substance at her. She needed to do more tests. Even a few hours might be enough to figure something out. Her bioband blipped, signifying the end of the workday just as Salakin darkened the doorway. "It's time for the prince's evening meal." Vane swallowed and fumbled with the equipment in her arms. According to Iris, the king usually retired to his quarters after the last meal of the day. Of course," Vane said, trying not to stammer. The king probably wanted to receive a solution from her half an hour ago. "Do you have everything you need? Is there anything—" "No," Salakin said sharply. Her expression clearly spoke of disgust and even a bit of shock. "We can take him from here, Sir Vane." Vane briskly nodded. She dropped the equipment onto the raft, while Rokva screeched and tackled her leg. "You gotta go with her, kid," Vane said, peeling him off her calf. "The day is over." This was met with more wordless cries of protest. Salakin hefted the kid up by the waist, ignoring his kicks. "You were very generous to take him today, Vane," she said. "You won't need to do that again." Keeping her back straight, Vane nodded briskly and hurried off before any of the technicians could yell at her about the mess she'd made. She'd clean it up later, probably, assuming the king had mercy and decided to let her remain unbanished. All things considered, she'd done a crowned good job. A breakthrough had been made on the very first day. The very first. She was confident that with a few more weeks, she and Rokva would be able to figure something out. Vane steeled her stomach as she entered the warp pad, realizing she didn't know where the king had his meals. If she had to make a very uneducated guess, though, it was easy to assume that he ate in the fanciest dining hall imaginable. Consulting her map, that would be Hall 3, adjacent to Warp Pad 7. Her finger hovered over the warp pad interface for a moment before sliding to the left, pressing the symbol that would send her to Warp Pad 4, the one nearest the royal chambers. She didn't know King Kada very well, but she'd bet money that he'd use any and every excuse to change his outfit throughout the day. Her intestines twisted up. The world vanished in a flash of brilliant blue light.
I'm going to take a pause here. We've only got 4 pages left, but I gotta run to the bathroom. So don't forget to drink your water and listen to some soothing background sounds and solve a puzzle while I'm gone. If you'd like to do the puzzle, check out the other links in my profile link. If you're watching on TikTok, if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, you can just use !puzzle. Took a little bit longer, but I'm back. You can't get rid of me. Just making sure everything is still working. Okay. Yes. Sniffer, sniffer. Sniffer, sniffer. Okay. As Vane rushed through the halls of mostly empty royal chambers, that was a rough start. As Vane rushed through the halls of mostly empty royal chambers, flashing her knight's insignia at anyone who looked like they might try to stop her, she desperately tried to keep down the fluids in her stomach. A flicker of gold caught her attention, disappearing around the curve of the hallway and heading towards the dining area. Though she was already sprinting, Vane found it in her to speed up. She bolted towards the curve of gold fabric, praying that she was right about who it belonged to. She was. It wasn't long before she reached the king, mainly because he walked at a slug's pace while checking his bioband. "Your Majesty!" Vane called out. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm so sorry I'm late." The king turned around, his glittering gold cape swirling across the surface of the water. Confusion, or perhaps annoyance, etched into his features, and he tilted his head. "I don't recall making plans to eat with you, Weeper." Vane gasped for breath, limbs trembling as she dipped into a bow, finger pressed against her forehead in salute. You didn't, but you wanted an update for the Nova Shield breach by the end of today, and I have one." His face remained blank, and he didn't say anything. "I need just a little more time," Vane said. "If you give me a few weeks, I'll..." The king held up a hand. "I have no idea what you're rambling on about, Weeper." "The Nova Shield breach," Vane said. "You told me to..." "I doubt it," the king said with a snort. "Now leave me alone. I'm hungry." Snapping her jaw shut, Vane wordlessly dipped into a bow as he continued on his way. He'd forgotten. Vane returned to the power center in a trance, cleaning up her equipment and enduring the technicians' threats. None of their actual words breached her skull, and she stumbled home. Iris was there, pulling her inside and yanking the door shut. Dark circles clawed into the spaces below her eyes. "I have an idea," she said. "It'll be risky, but if we pull it off, you'll be safe. We don't have much time." It took Vane a moment to realize exactly what Iris was talking about. "We don't need to do that." "I'm not going to let you choose otherwise, Vane. You're not going to sacrifice yourself for something this petty, this stupid. And I've already made up my mind. You can't change it. I'll knock you out if I need to. You know there's nothing you can do to stop me. So just shut up, follow me, and let me take care of all of this. I'll need access to your old scrounger contacts." "Iris, I'm okay," Vane said. He forgot that he asked me to do anything. Whatever you're about to do will only make things worse for both of us.
Iris's jaw snapped shut, and her eyes widened in shock before narrowing into slits.
Are you lying to me? I'm standing here, aren't I?
Vane found her way to a deeper part of the living room and sank under the water, pulling her jacket free and letting it float on the surface. Her hands shook as she did so, and it was only then that she realized how badly the entire encounter had rattled her. Iris dove into the water after her, face still contorted in disbelief.
Hi, White Sunset. You are deserving of happy feelings. I'm glad that you enjoyed that.
So help me, Vane, she said, voice made clearer by the water. If you're just saying this to get me off your back.
I'm not,
Vane said.
I'm just as surprised as you are. Honestly, truly. This isn't something I would lie about.
Weren't you going to get banished?
I don't know. The king is very... You know how it is.
Iris folded her arms, clearly not entirely convinced. So you wouldn't want to be banished? Even though it would mean seeing mother and father again?
I wouldn't leave you, Vane said. I promise.
That seemed to do it. Iris's shoulders slumped, and she pulled Vane into a tight embrace, saying nothing for a long, long time. Vane buried her face in her sister's shoulder, already feeling herself start to calm down. It was going to be okay.
Now all we have to do is worry about the hunt. Now all we have to worry about is the hunt,
Iris said. Maybe things would not be okay.
There we go. We did it. Now we're on chapter 5. That's where we're going to stop reading for today. But yes, Luna, now you have a fishy. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Rimuru. Okay, my dearest fishies. We are 30 minutes over our usual end time now, given we did get quite off track with conversation and stuff. But it is time for stream to come to an end. So, you know the drill. I will be back again next week. I am thinking of doing a StephTsu stream on either Monday or Tuesday. If you care at all, put an M in chat if you want Monday stream, or a T in chat if you want a Tuesday stream. And if it's your first time here and you haven't seen me do a StephTsu stream before, how I do those streams to maintain all of the coziness is I will have my model on the screen, and StephTsu will be at a lower volume so that you can hear the ambiance of the game. But you will still be able to fall asleep because you'll have my voice talking to you the whole time. So, I'm considering doing an extra stream next week, possibly some Stardew. We could also try something else like Spirit Fair. We have done that on stream before. But otherwise, I highly recommend you join the Discord server so you can get notified of anything you choose to be notified for, and you will get to be part of the community so we can all talk and chat together. If you're not able to join the Monday or Tuesday stream, that's okay. I will be back on Thursday for ASMR, and we will resume more reading Friday and Saturday. So next time you're looking for another stream, keep an eye out for 6 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. Drink your water. This is the part where we say our goodnights, our goodbyes, and our see you tomorrows. I will be back again next week with some more cozy streams, Stardew, or ASMR, or reading. Join the Discord server or follow on socials so you can stay up to date. If you're watching on Twitch, we are going to raid out, and I appreciate if you're on your best behavior because you represent this community. So copy the raid message and join along with us to raid into somebody else, and we can show our support. If you are not watching on Twitch, that's okay. The stream is just going to end for you. But if you miss me between now and the next time you see me, you can always check out my content on YouTube. I have plenty and plenty of hours and videos of content for you to listen to my voice. Aside from that, please drink your water, eat your food, be kind to yourself and others, and have a good night.